And when I got up to get mine, when they called my name, the secretary of the department says, Dr. Honey, I couldn't wait to meet you. She said, your degree, you should have been the very first one to get your degree, because we've seen degrees that come through that had nothing about basket weaving and all of that didn't make a difference. And so we had to prove everything. We went there, through hell. But this is the dedication that I did for it. And it's in the library. Anytime you do a dissertation, it must be in the Library of Congress. And
wow.
But this is my dedication. I dedicate this work to you, God. May this work show the world your love. Thank you for your faith in trusting me to do a mission for you. May the world be restored and renewed by your grace as I continue to be an instrument that perform your will. Amen.
Today we have Dr. Bobbie J. Shaw Hunter, adjunct professor and founder of Churches, Families, and Communities Together National Training Institute. Her areas of focus are triumph over trauma, crime and violence intervention and prevention, strengthening families by parental and youth skills development, Churches Without Walls, which is church development and training, emotional and mental health, African-centered intervention approaches, teen pregnancy prevention, building effective community collaboration, and career development. Dr. Shaw has dedicated her life to the service of others. She lived in Europe for 7 years, where she continued to service our soldiers, their families, and U.S. civilians who were stationed in Europe. She has traveled extensively to countries which include Germany, Italy, France, Switzerland, Holland, Sweden, Liechtenstein, the Soviet Union, Austria, Luxembourg, Belgium, England, Czechoslovakia, Mexico, and more. Dr. Shaw is the recipient of many awards, including being listed as the Eau Claire Community Best and Brightest, listed among the 2001 International Professionals Who's Who, and was honored with resolutions in her honor in Jackson, Mississippi, Richland County, and South Carolina for her dedication to families and communities. Other awards include Service to Mankind Award, Maroon Nanny Distinguished Honor Award, and Volvo Local Hero Nominee. Dr. Shaw readily expresses that her purpose, desire, and journey in life is to be a vessel of Christ, to serve and restore his people with positive actions that demonstrate the power of a living God. Woo! That was powerful. That was powerful. And that was just a slice of the pie. So I would like to welcome you all to another episode of the Kat Myers Show. We are here to entertain you, to educate you, but most importantly, to empower you. This show is the legacy of my dad's radio show called The Voice of the People. My dad's name was Dr. Kenneth Myers Sr., and his slogan was, I love you enough to tell you the truth, and I respect you enough to give you the facts. His show aired on WAAW Shout 94.7 FM down in Aiken, South Carolina. He also had a show on Saturday mornings in Spartanburg, South Carolina, where he lived out his latter years. And on today's episode, we're going to empower you, educate you, and entertain you with a very special guest. I've told you a little bit about her already, Dr. Shaw Hunter. Thank you so much for being with us today to bless the microphone and to bless the listeners tonight.
It's a pleasure to be here, Catherine. And I want you to know that all the work that I've done, a lot of it was inspired by your father, because your father was my best friend. And when life was through divorce and whatever I went through, your father was the sense of reasoning for me. And so I'm very grateful that God allowed our path to meet.
Yes, I'm grateful too.
And his spirit lives on.
Yes. I have been so blessed through the relationships that my dad has built. Even though, he's passed away, I'm still getting the blessings of those gifts. And you are definitely one of those. He talked about you so much. And I know he admired the work that you did. And I don't know, Dr. Shaw Hunter, for you, you've been doing this or as they would say, you've been a laborer in the vineyard for a long time. So for you, I don't know if it just seems like easy, but I know for my dad, he would talk about trying to get community together and churches together and to do workshops. And I don't know about the listeners here today, but it's not easy to get people together in a place and share information with them. It's like, especially in this digital age. But you were still, like you just last month, were doing in-person events. Am I right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's very, very hard. But I want you to know that your father and I, we had a compassion for our community where we came from. And that was the bond that kept us together. Like even
Yes.
Osbar stated a long time ago, and your Kenneth and I will talk about this. He says, when you're trying to help former slaves, he said and you reach out your hand to help them, they will talk about your fingernail.
Mm,
And my daughter would say, "No, mom, they don't talk about your fingernail. When you're trying to help people who have been enslaved mentally, psychologically so long, they will go for the jugular vein and they'll try to kill you." But that did not stop your father and I. We continued on because when you know your purpose in life, we know that this is just, we're not here forever. We're just like a breath of air, and we want to make it count. We want to make it
yes.
count. And so your father did. And that's what I will continue to do. And that is my prayer every day, to let whatever I do make it matter.
Right. Well, Dr. Shaw Hunter, how do you go about in this day and age being a community advocate? Like, how do you go about getting people together? Like how do you be a on the ground activist in 2025?
Well, we have to be adaptable. And one of the things that I do, I've learned from, in one of my presentations that I do, I talk about Ron McNally. Ron McNally, you could not go anywhere without a map, a physical map in your hand. They were
Right.
known all over the world. No matter where you go, there was a Rand McNally map that took you where you needed to go. Rand McNally refused to change.
Mm.
Google came along, and who hears of them anymore? So, and my example is that I take that from Rand McNally. I do a whole lot of virtual things. For instance, last month
Okay.
we had a family strengthening activity where we used to go into the community and like to areas that needed our help, or into churches. And we would serve for 8 consecutive weeks. We would work with families. But to remove a lot of the barriers, we took this virtual, so that the
Okay.
families could be within their own home. They can have their own meal. And everything that we do is research and culturally based. Now, I know with this new administration that we have on, I just got something today that talked about nonprofits. If you mention anything having to do with culture, you will get, or race or whatever, your application will be thrown in the garbage. That's the directive. And I'll send that to you, when we get off the road, get off
Okay.
the line. But there's this too is going to pass, because this is only going to be a temporary thing. And one of the things that everyone is concerned about, even with the DC thing today, Catherine, that
Right.
um, Trump, that there's a Trumper over Trump. Trump may think that he has the power, but his powers are so limited. He can only go into DC for 30 days before Congress has to pass that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and even there's a finite thing on that. So God trumps him. God trumps
Right.
Trump. And so,
Trump.
right, God trumps Trump. So my focus is not to always look at, and it's so easy. Your question was, In this day and age, how did you get the communities together? I'll tell you what
Mm-hmm.
Alan Poussaint told us when I was in Germany, and we asked,
Okay.
how in the world could we help the communities when you know that there's a lot of crime in the communities? He says, very cautiously and careful.
Mm. Very cautiously and careful.
And so my thing to you is that I use bottom up solutions, Catherine. If we ever try to do anything top down, it's never going to work.
Okay.
Because people at, quote, the bottom have been used and have been promised so much that they don't trust anybody.
Right.
So if you can begin to develop trust at the bottom and allow them to sit at their own table and tell you how they want you to help them, then there is a way. And that's what it's amazing. That's what all the work that I do. Um, People don't understand how she can get those people to do all this. It's because
Right.
it's not my job to do it. It is my job to walk beside them,
Mm.
hear from them what it is that they want.
Okay.
And when I hear from them what it is that they want to do, I don't do it. I allow them to do it. And if they want advice from me, I give it to them.
And that's the last word in your dissertation. It's empowerment.
Empowerment.
Empowering someone to do something is different than doing it for them.
Absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
Dr. Shaw Hunter, I'm going to tell you how I see you. And you tell me if you see yourself this way.
Okay.
I see you as a prize winning racehorse. And when they lift up that gate for the race to start, whatever year you were born, you have your blinders on and you race that lane, and you've been racing that lane 100 miles an hour, either from your birth, from your point of your PhD, whenever you had your awakening. And if it's not about these focus areas, if it's not about community, if it's not about family, and if it's not about your family, you're not going to find you there. You are so focused. And I wanted to see if you could give the listeners some tips. Like, how do you stay focused in a world with so much noise?
There's so much brokenness. This world is but it didn't just start here. I'm I am unashamedly a Christian. And I
Yes.
say that unapologetically. And so my focus is that not with all of the waves that's around me and all of the wind that's coming. Like Peter, my focus is on something bigger than me. And I
Okay.
call that something God.
Yes.
So I literally believe the scriptures when the scriptures say that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't let anyone tell me that I don't have that power when I have divinely been given that.
Right.
When because um I live the words I try to live. Now I'm flawed. You can ask my children, I'm so flawed. But I try to live the words of God. And
Yeah.
so my focus is not on the enemies. My focus is not on those people who try to pull me down because the word says that God will make my enemies my footstool.
Mm.
So when I take these words and make these words into actions for me, I I can't help but to be focused. when
Yes.
when I read and I told him and see, I have tasted to see that God is good. All of these years I've been on this earth, this is not just talk, Catherine. I have
Right.
tasted God. I've
Right.
tasted, and so um, when I'm told that all things will work out for my good, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to go through something. But it does mean that I believe that it's going to work out for my good. And it has
Right.
always done that.
Right. Well, let me ask you this. The world tells us that if you want to make a difference, if you want to make a change, you got to get on social media and you have to get 100,000 followers and you have to be what they call an influencer. Like, but you haven't succumbed to that theology, if you will.
Can't stand it.
So is it one-on-one connections? Is it talking with pastors? Like, how do you get your influence if it's not social media? Because that's what they teach us.
Well, they get because you see, I'm not part of this world. I'm in this world, but not part of this world.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the difference for me. I have not befriended not one person.
On social media?
I have not befriended not one person on social media because just because I click a button doesn't mean that you're my friend.
Come on.
And so your friend does nothing but take your business and talk about it.
Mm.
So my influ I'm God and myself. I'm my influencer. I
Right.
don't want to be influenced by any other. Are there other people in the community that does things that I admire? And I work with those people. I call them, text them, email them. I work with them. Let me tell you, let me give you a good example, Catherine.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, in the Memphis, Tennessee area, there were 10 communities, some of the 10 poorest community zip codes. I wanted to make certain that we had mobile food pantries in those communities on a monthly basis.
Okay.
I didn't have the money to do it. But I
Okay.
knew that I wanted to do that because Jesus was in the middle.
Come
You
on.
never saw him at the head of the table. He was always in the middle with those who were hurt and who was in pain. And see, the reason that so many people on social media want to have all these influences is because they don't want to be in the middle. And so what I did was I found those people in those 10 communities, people that I know by connecting with them because I talk
Mm-hmm.
to them and I meet them. I met them and I said,
Yeah.
this is your community. How can you help me make this happen? And they did.
Wow.
Didn't have to do anything.
Are we talking about telephone calls? Are we talking about face to face?
All of the above.
Wow. So
And
you will get in your car, you will get in
I
a
did
plane.
not do any social media. I'm not that I'm against it. Now they may have done it, but I'm talking the way that I operate.
Right.
Now, and so like in one of the communities, this the person who's over the mobile pantries, she does radio after she connected the way that she get her communities. Every community is different. She does radio spots. She puts it on the grocery stores. She goes into the every entity in her community to let people know that this is the date that we're going to do this. They come up with the volunteers to work the food site themselves.
Wow.
When we're talking about empowerment, if
Yes.
you're looking to get glory from these people that'll drop a dime here and move out the way, that's not empowerment.
Okay.
I
So I'm curious. Go
go ahead.
ahead. Well, I was just going to ask you, did you already know this stuff before you got your PhD? Or did your PhD teach you how to do this?
Everything that we need, God has already given to us.
Yes.
My degree is just that, it's just a degree. I was doing all of this before I got the degree,
Okay.
but the degree was just a caveat.
Okay.
The degree has the only thing it does for me is to show that God has favored me and has given me discipline enough to do that.
Yes.
I have
Well,
awards that I have. That's just a few. Most of the awards that I have, for instance, when my children were growing up, um, I didn't want. I was their Girl Scout teacher, the Girl Scout leader.
yes.
I volunteered at their school.
Yes.
I did the community things. I helped mothers. I taught parenting class and family strengthening classes. wherever there's a need, you look at the need of the community, the need of the people you're trying to help, and see how can you help them. A degree doesn't help you to do that. It may give you resources, but it doesn't do
Right.
it. It's just that.
Well, I know we grew up in different generations,
Yeah.
but I think, unfortunately, something that has passed down from my generation and in your generation and generations before us is being Black in America is the message from white America to hate everything about being Black, from our complexion, from our hair texture to our features, to trying to tell us that Black means poverty, that Black means dumb. Like, I wanted to know, in your evolution, when did you learn to love yourself despite these messages?
All my life.
So you just came out the
All of
womb.
my life. Because I grew up in Jackson, Mississippi.
Okay.
In my neighborhood, and most people in my category, we don't have any self-doubt about who we are.
Mm-hmm.
We know who we are. Because
Right.
we were told that we don't ask anybody to give us nothing. If you crack the door, if the door is cracked, we'll knock it down. We didn't look for handouts.
Right.
We had more, we own more. You all have more degrees, but we own more property.
Mm.
And so because we build our own, just like the Nuba Saba principle, the 7 principles of Kwanzaa, is that
Yeah.
we named ourselves.
Yes.
We did not look for someone else to name us. And the disconnect is that I think because some of us, I made my children read The Miseducation of the Negro while they was in high school.
Yes.
My grandson right now goes to a Christian school in Northern Virginia, which is predominantly white. Well, it's really race. He knows who he is.
And that's what I wanted to ask you. With living in so many different countries, did that challenge your sense of identity? Did you add to who you were? Or you just was like, I
I,
am who I am?
I am who I am.
That's awesome.
And that is what we need to teach our young generation. Let me read you something
Okay.
out of my book and out of my dissertation that I wrote.
Okay. Please.
But my findings concluded that rarely, if ever, have effective solutions been developed for the African American community using Eurocentric norms and standards.
Well, that leads into my next question. What are your thoughts on integration and how it impacted Black families and Black communities?
I, I don't have a general thing on that because I'm like, I believe what Dr. King says, that we must judge a person by their character,
Yes.
the color of their skin. Because I have had some people in my same color of my skin that will kill you.
Mm.
And I've had some that's not in my skin color that has uplifted and helped. So when it
Yeah.
comes to that, I believe that one's character dictates whether or not I want you close in my environment or in my
Yeah.
sphere.
That's right.
But we understand now that we got to begin to talk. We got to begin to talk through our problems. So one of the
Right.
things that that I have noticed in our community is that we have something called learned helplessness in this generation.
Mm.
I did not see in our generation. And I'm not saying it wasn't there, but it was not as prevalent as it is today. Learned helplessness is a concept by a man by the name of Siegelman. And what he did was he did an experiment and he put um, a dog in a box where there was electrical currents on one side.
Okay.
And so he allowed the electrical current to hit the dog, and the dog would jump over immediately into the other box. But then it came a time when the dog became helpless, and he began to say, well, these currents gonna come in the way, so I might as well stay here. And he sat there, learned helplessness. Now, how does
Mm.
it apply to our community? Because someone calls us name or we have failed so many times, we begin to take that on as a characteristic.
Right.
And we
Right.
bec- and it becomes a character, a learn what we call learned helplessness, rather than to say we fall down, but I can get up.
Exactly.
And so we were taught this when we were growing up. Expect to be knocked down.
Right.
Uh, what is his name? A white psychologist wrote a book. Oh my gosh, used to use this all the time. Uh, and he says life is tough. And his second book, he wrote further on down the road. He said life can be complex. And I said, oh, he must have listened to my mother, because we were told, don't expect life to be given to you on a bed of roses. Expect there to be difficulties in life. Because what is difficult, my son wrote uh, 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 an essay, and I will never forget this. The question was, he was he was in high school. The question was, um, tell me about your failure. Describe a failure that you have had. And thank God, I didn't think he was listening to me, but he said this. He says, I was taught that uh, he says that failures come to either make me better if they don't kill me.
Mm.
I
That's
have been
right.
that. He said failures I don't know of any failure that I can say that have caused me to be a failure or have caused me to stay there. He says when failures come, they're only to sharpen me to make me better if those failures don't kill me.
Right.
These are, and what I've done is what I have been taught. I took the good, didn't bring the bad with me, but I
Right.
took the good and I passed those on. And so the disconnect, Catherine, is that between
Mm-hmm.
our generation and your generation is because we took away you all struggle.
Mm.
But some your age don't know, they're helpless in the sense
Right.
that they expect things to be given to them. And when
Right.
something tough, when storms come along, instead of saying, help me with that, reaching out and said, show me how to navigate this, they want you to do it
Right.
for them.
Right. But I want to ask you this because I know the listeners are super impressed, and sometimes, listening to someone who's accomplished so much, who has so many degrees, who's lived in so many countries, sometimes we think, well, they were just born that way, born self-confident, and in some ways you were born a certain way. But when it comes to making an impact, I was wondering, like, how does the process look for you? Like, if we could get a sneak peek, is it like the beginning of the year you write things out? Is it you see a news story and the Holy Spirit speaks to you? How do you go from thought to action?
I remember, um, I come from a very humble beginning in Jackson, Mississippi. We lived in your father said that we were rich, but we lived in a shack, but we owned that shack.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was to pay rent until after I got married.
Mm.
And I hated having to give because the land that shack was on belonged to our family. And
Yeah.
so, but my mother, we never used the word we never looked. It was just, when I was in a meeting one time and someone came from the same beginning and they begin to despise their beginning. But I can't do that because we were not told that we were poor. My mother
Nope.
said, poorness is a state of mind.
Yep.
And it was such, uh, we were raised in the sense that, um, uh, Everything is temporary.
That's right.
It's about choices that you make. And that if you believe this God who says that uh you're made in his image and the
Yep.
fullness of the world belong to you, if you believe that, then why would you act in a way that you're lacking?
Because those two don't go together.
They don't go together. It's the antithesis of each other. It's like polar opposites of each other. And I think a
Right.
lot of what we don't believe, Catherine, is that we talk the talk, but we don't actually believe it enough to walk it. And
Uh-huh.
that is where the problem comes in, because
Right.
you don't faith is not seeing something and then going that way. Faith is believing that it's going to happen even when you don't even see it,
That's
and
right.
that's of it. And so we don't have faith in ourselves enough to say, I'm going to go for this job interview. I may get turned down, but that's not going to stop me.
That's right. That
I,
learned helplessness.
I divorced. I was going through a divorce when I was working on my degree, my doctoral degree.
Okay.
I was determined before a living God that the only thing that would stop me from getting this was God take me out of this earth.
Yes.
And so
Woo.
when you know that you are put on this earth to do great things and for your purpose, you don't know there are a lot of distractions that may come. But as you said before, my focus, my strength does not come from people around me or things around me. My internal strength comes from the divine God that gave it to me.
That's
I
right.
don't let people define who I am or how far I should go,
Yes.
because that's not your journey. So how does it look? It looks at having believing in something bigger than yourself. Whether I call mine my belief in God. You could call yours Buddha or whatever you want to call it. I'm not mad at you.
Yeah.
But if yourself is your God, then that you're messing up.
That's right.
You're messing up.
Now, I wanted to ask you, I know you have given us so many gems, and this is not enough time. And I know the listeners want to hear more, but before we leave, we're going to tell them how to read your books, how to read your dissertation, how to find you, how to get in contact with you. We're going to share all that. But my last question for you is, could you share maybe one or two things from your self-care routine that are non-negotiable that allow you to be your best self?
Absolutely. Most of my life, I have to have that quiet time in the moment, in the morning. Even when I was raising my three children, and they did their I taught them to do devotional time, and that time is the time that I do my devotional readings. And I don't. A lot of times we talk to God, but we never listen.
Mm,
But I listen. I just want to listen to whatever the divine has for me.
yes.
The divine thoughts come. So what I do
Right.
is when I get up in the morning, before I do anything, I always thank God for allowing me to be alive. And then I go into my quiet time. And during that quiet time is when I do my devotional. I send it to you. And everybody that I meet, I ask them when they ask me what church you go to. I hate that question.
Why?
Because we are the church. And
Yes.
if you're carrying the light of God with you, the world is going to see that and want some of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing is that I protect my spirit. I
Yes.
do not allow any and everything to come into my spirit, whether it's person or through the media or on the telephone. If it's something that does not agree with my spirit, I'll stop it.
Right.
So we have a right to stop and protect our boundaries.
That's
And
right.
our boundaries is to keep us healthy. And I'm
Right.
beginning to, I do exercise before, I exercise. I try to exercise. I really need to commit more to daily exercise. But I think our body is our temple. And
Yes. That's right.
I select, um I truly select, uh not that the Bible says we should inspect the fruit, not judging, but I do look at the fruits. And if you're
Right.
not bearing good fruits that is going to uplift me, uh I can politely not accept them. So that's what
Right.
I do as far as self-care. I my whole life is that, um my relationship is God is more important to me than anything else. And I'm
Yes.
not talking about having a knowledge of God and speaking God. I've really been in a relationship with God.
Right.
I just want to be able to hear Him and not always talk and ask, and have a lot of noise around me because the
Right.
world is very, very noisy.
It is. It is. And today we got to have a quiet moment here on the Cat Meyer Show. On this episode with you, we got to have an inspiring, empowering moment. To all the listeners, you probably feel the way I feel every time I talk to Dr. Shaw Hunter. It's like I just want to keep talking. But this episode has to come to a close. But we don't want this conversation to come to a close. You can find her at www.cfact, F-A-C-T, four families.com. That's cfact4families.com. She has a book that she is currently promoting called Speaking Life. But Dr. Shaw Hunter, don't you have multiple books?
I have multiple books. Uh,
Right.
and multiple manual. I do a lot of training. And so each of the trainings that I do, whether it's strengthening families or whether or not it's triumph over trauma, all of us have experienced trauma. And you'll have to
Yes,
bring me on again to talk about that.
I would
All of
love
us have
to.
experienced trauma. But the trauma that we have experienced in our life does not have to catch us by the neck and drag us out. There are tools that can be given to you where you can be in control of the trauma that in your life rather than allowing that trauma to take control over you. So we can talk.
Amen.
That is, will I have each whenever I do training, I do certification of training, and to churches and communities who would like to have a team approach to go out and help their communities and families. And there are manuals that I have published that go with those, go with the training. And everything that I do is research based. It's not just something
Yes.
off my head. It is research based and it is culturally a specific. So
Okay.
and so but my best way to get me is by myself and by my number, and that is 662-351-2228. So to
Okay.
get me again, the best way to get me is 662-351-2228. And an email address you can get me at is bjshaw55 at Yahoo. I'm a Yahoo person.
That's all
I
right.
also have a Yahoo account, but use the Yahoo.
Okay, not a problem. We want to thank you again, Dr. Shaw Hunter, for blessing the microphone, for blessing the podcast. This has been another episode of the Kat Myers Show. So thank you so much for joining us for another episode.
You're welcome. Now you have to say your father's thing at the end.
Yes, I was thinking about that. So I did want to mention to everybody that I do have a book called You Were Supposed to Love Me, talking about trauma to triumph. That was from the traumatic experience of going through my first divorce and the traumatic experience of losing my father. And from that, I also birthed Coach K. It's the theme of that coaching business is called It's Time to Live Your Best Life. And then also this podcast was birthed from that, the Kat Myers Show. So definitely want to give a shout out to my dad again, up in heaven, sending little nuggets, just when I need it. And his slogan was, I love you enough to tell you the truth and respect you enough to give you the facts. So for whatever it is for you guys, good morning, good night. We'll see you here, same place, same time next week.